Hi everyone, today is the fourth day in our series of demos. We will be presenting projects from our Neo Frontier Hackathon. Tomorrow will be the last day and we'll have 2 more projects tomorrow as well. Nice to see everyone. The recordings of all previous sessions are on YouTube as well, if you would like to check out those. So today we have 2 projects, Humswap and Lyrebird. The first one is NFT/DeFi platform, and the second one is a stablecoin. So let's start with Humswap. Please let me. Who will be presenting? Is it Mario? Or okay. Now
yes,
you can unmute it. Hi, Mario.
Hi. Cool. And then Jason will join also in the presentation halfway through.
Okay, I will unmute him as well. Okay. Every team has 15 minutes and then 5 minutes for questions.
Okay. Awesome. All right, then let's get started. Screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Sweet. Okay, so we are Humswap, and we aim to be a DeFi platform and an NFT platform as well. 2-in-1 for the Neo platform, for the Neo blockchain. And so there's a few things in here that you're going to see that are still being worked out, and so they're not fully functional because we are also migrating to RC4. But we do want to show you what we have in place, and we do have the contracts written, and that's something that Jason will talk about. I'll take you guys through the front end and what we hope to accomplish with this project. And so our main goal, we're started off with NFTs. And so we realized there's a need for NFTs to be used in a very diverse way, right? With auctions, with marketplace, and with something what we call PitaToss. So I'll take you first to PitaToss. PitaToss is meant to be a place where it allows you to win different types of PITA anytime you toss the PITA. So you're always going to win something, but there's moments where you're going to win certain higher, more prestigious NFTs. And so that's you have a 99% chance to win, for example, this NFT, which is very common, and then you have a 1% chance to win this NFT. And these NFTs are still in development, so these are placeholder ones. But I would toss it right now, but we need to migrate to RC4, so it's not going to currently work. But that's the intention, and this was working with testnet 3. And so from there, we also have auction. So auction is a place where we hope to have anybody who wants to sell NFTs on Neo to add their NFTs to our platform, and then people can start bidding for them. And you can place a bid, and there's going to be a time where the bid closes. Marketplace is more direct. It's basically buy now. It's a direct purchase where you pay what the asking price is, and it's yours. And then we hope to expand into more DeFi, more liquidity pools and swap. Right now, those are in process and we're building, excuse me. But that's how, those are our hopes. With Connect Neoline, this should work. We can connect the wallet. Now, we just need to make it work with RC4. And so this is the website. This is some of the functionalities. And then I'll hand it over to Jason so he can talk about some smart contracts.
Yeah, so I think Mario highlighted really the front end really well. There's a lot of notes I think that go with the smart contracts themselves. So if you can see here that we're outlining what the project is and what our intent, but if we scroll down a bit, we have some of the first contracts. So I think one of the interesting things, we were working on these NFT contracts while NEP 11 was in limbo. So these are actually NEP 17 with just a single value for these individual NFTs. And it's kind of interesting because our ultimate goal is to have NFTs function in the context of DeFi. So that can mean many things, but initially, what it will mean for several of these NFTs is that they will provide an extra boost to yields in some fashion. So maybe if you are providing liquidity and you also hold an NFT, you may earn a multiplier on what yield you would be earning. So we think this is really interesting because it provides utility for NFTs, and also outside of the context of NFTs, it really also provides utility to other projects such as Rentfuse that was earlier presenting, where the renting of an NFT could be very useful in this context. So if we keep scrolling down, so we have multiple NFT contracts here. The PITA NFT contract is again NEP 17 with multiple values, like 100,000 available. But we also have another NFT contract in the works. And on the website, there was a little hint of what is to come, where there was a pixelized version of our main logo, our main mascot. So we are also building a generative NFT project. So very similar to CryptoPunks and the Solarians and other projects, where it will create randomly generated NFTs in the design of our mascot that will also have all of the specialized functionality and integrations into DeFi as well. So I think very interesting. That'll be very fun working with a lot of designers on that, and that's coming along great. But outside of that, we do have other contracts that are live here, or that were on RC3, that do also have other functionalities. So the auction is complete. You can do an auction. Right now, these individual contracts are limited to the contract owner. So if we would be doing the auction of an NFT, we would be doing the straight listing of an NFT to purchase. But we are working on making these extend out so that they're more of a protocol to be consumed or where anyone can use it. So yeah, those are a very top level of what the contracts are. The PITA test also, Mario highlighted, is live. And I think if we scroll down to the roadmap, we just highlighted a few things that we plan, very rough estimates. They're all work in progress. We also didn't highlight the generative NFTs here, but you can kind of see this rough estimate of when liquidity pools would be expected to be released, the swap functionality, and so on and so forth. There were some highlights that I did mention about the NEP 17 and NEP 11. That we would have to also migrate some of the, I guess we can call them customized, designed, or static NFTs, where we have a very specific singular design. They're not generative. We would have to migrate those to NEP 11 as well. But it's interesting because they worked pretty well from a NEP 17 standard. But of course, we want to adopt the NEP 11 standard. So that was very much a top level. Really, we took a good dive into this. I'm curious. I'm seeing some questions. I wouldn't mind opening these a bit and responding to some of these. Oh, migrate to, yeah. So, yeah, that's a good question. We didn't really mean, I guess, migrate in the context of deploy. But there are some contract changes and are some configuration required when we do deploy our contracts. So that's what we meant by migrate. There was another question for 0.1 gas fee fixed for the PitaSwap. Yeah, so gas fees, all of our contracts are configurable. We're building everything from the context of configurability, and really we're aiming for really the protocol angle, the thing to open up auctioning, open up purchasing, allowing people to come in and list an NFT for purchase with another NFT, or even other tokens. So for now, we're just, a lot of the values that you will see when you explore our project are very much placeholders. We're still doing simulations on our numbers and our economic values. But yeah, it's very much placeholders. So there's another question for, do you plan to offer Uniswap-like market where users can establish their own LPs? Yes, that's very much the core of what we aim to be. We aim to really have the swapping and functionality, the liquidity pools. And that also goes into the second question there. Will the swap functionality utilize Flamingo? That I'm not too sure yet. We haven't looked into that. Yeah, let's see. Another question, plans to integrate any sort of DAO or voting mechanism? Yeah, again, I think we haven't delved too much into that as well. That would be very interesting, like voting around even multipliers, or it could be, there could be some pretty interesting ways to handle voting. Yeah, so I think that if there are any questions, I really wouldn't mind opening it up for other people to talk.
All right, seems like no other questions. Well, thank you, Mario. Thank you, Jason. We are really looking forward to the next step of your project. It will be fun to play with it.
Thank you.
All right, so now the next project is Lyrebird, and William will present his project.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, let me also try share screen. Wait, I have to allow Zoom to do this. Hold on. Sorry. Quit and reopen. Okay, so I'll be right back.
All right, no worries.
Okay, so I'm back. Let me see if I can share my screen. Does it show?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, let me just get rid of this. Okay, so thank you for having me here. My name is William. I'm the developer behind Lyrebird. I guess first I want to start with acknowledgements. I think there were a group of people who I think were really instrumental to just getting this project to work. One is Joe Stewart, who answered all the stupid questions I had on Discord. And then one is Harry Pearson, who wrote Neo Express and Blockchain Development Toolkit, which I couldn't have built my contracts without. And then the other is the fine folks at X Labs, who essentially built the front end that I'm about to present, because they had this meme governance front end and I just tweaked it a little bit to make mine. So otherwise it would have looked much worse. Today I want to kind of answer 3 high-level questions. One is what, one is why, and one is how. So kind of what is Lyrebird, what does it intend to do? Why do we need a native stablecoin protocol on Neo? And how does it work? So without further ado, I'll start with what. So what is Lyrebird? Lyrebird, I think I chose a name because with Flamingo, I think we already have a kind of bird naming scheme already. And Lyrebird is a bird who can mimic any kind of sound that you can think of, like even chainsaws. And so the idea behind Lyrebird is that we want to provide a protocol that lets you basically take any kind of asset with the price and a reliable price feed and be able to synthetically replicate that on the Neo N3 blockchain. The specific asset that we chose as the first asset that we want to replicate is a US dollar. as many of you are aware, there are different US dollar stablecoins on various blockchains. And I think the US dollar is it's very nice to have as a stable asset. And right now, I think in the blockchain space, there are kind of 3 different types of stable coins. One is completely fiat backed. So you have things like Tether, which theoretically, you know that one Tether is backed by one US dollar somewhere. So that kind of gives it an intrinsic value of $1. Of course, you have some centralization aspects that you might not like, but you at least get the one-to-one dollar. You have other collateral backed stable coins like DAI. So there, I think you lock up a little bit more than the amount that you actually want to mint. And so let's say you want to mint $1, you might lock up $1.50 worth of Ether. And so the idea there is that because you have this specific collateral that's tied to your dollar that you just minted, you can always get that back. And so that kind of stabilizes the price. And the third type really is algorithmic stablecoins. And I think the big distinction here is that your stablecoin isn't specifically backed by like a specific collateral. The idea is that you kind of try to drive market forces to stabilize the price in a particular direction. And the way that Lyrebird does that is by giving you a reserve token called LRB, which stands for Lyrebird. And so you can always take $1 worth of Lyrebird and take the prevailing exchange rates and then burn your $1 worth of Lyrebird to mint one LUSD, which is the Lyrebird USD stablecoin. Conversely, you can always take one LUSD and burn that to mint $1 worth of Lyrebird. And so this is the general mechanism by which it works. As you can see, this mechanism by itself doesn't do anything. You actually need market participants. So you need people to see that there are arbitrage opportunities, because if, let's say, LUSD is trading at $2 and you know that you can mint it for $1 worth of LRB, with minimal risk, you can just mint a bunch of LUSD from any LRB that you have, just sell it on the exchange, and you basically just doubled your funds. Let's go now into why. So why do we want Lyrebird? What does it really bring to the NEO ecosystem? And I think a common question might be, you have all of these other stable coins and you have things like Poly Network. Why do you need a native stable coin? Why can't you just wrap them, bring them over Poly Network? And I think there are a couple of reasons for this. One is that if you're dependent on a different blockchain, that's actually an additional risk factor that you're not fully considering. For example, we have wrapped USDT in Flamingo, but imagine if, let's say, gas fees on the Ethereum network are so high that you have demand for this coin, but you're actually not able to bring it into Poly Network, through Poly Network into NEO for any kind of reasonable price, then you might actually have a divergence from the dollar peg. So for various reasons, I think it does make sense to have a specific native stablecoin in NEO. And another thing that I think is that really, if you have a native stablecoin with elastic supply, that's just kind of keeps everything within the ecosystem, that's really a basis that you can use to really build a flourishing DeFi ecosystem and make sure that your capital just stays within the ecosystem rather than going in and out with other networks. Final question I want to answer is how. So how does this work? Let me see if I can move this toolbar, because otherwise I can't see anything. Maybe I can't. So then I'll move my screen a little bit. So I'll start with a little demo. And so we can go to the app page. So here we basically have just a dashboard showing how much LRB we have in circulation, how much LUSD we have in circulation, how much was minted, how much was burned, and how much you have. So let's say we have LRB, which is at $5.31 right now. And I already have some LRB in my accounts. We have account balance 2,893. And so I could take some of this and say, why don't I mint some LUSD? So let's say we're a whale, so we're going to convert 1,000. We expect to receive about 5,300 LUSD. Neoline is going to prompt me. So I'm going to say yes. And so now we wait. We have to wait about 2 blocks, because the first block is for your request to go through. And then the second block really is going to be for the Oracle to pick up your request and then make a call to a dummy exchange right now that just has fluctuating prices. And then once it has that, it knows how much LUSD to mint. So then it'll burn the appropriate amount of LRB and then mint the corresponding amount of LUSD. So did this already go through? I think it did. So while I was talking, it seems to have gone through. So you could probably have seen that the market cap of LUSD went up. So I did 1,000, probably by about 5,300. Circulating supply also about 5,300, and then total minted is also going to go up. This is kind of a toy example because you can mint and burn, but really you need someone to use this, right? You have to go to an exchange. And so what I have implemented is a arbitrage bot that's very simple right now. It basically just checks to see, is LUSD trading at above or below $1? If it's above $1, take some of your capital, mint LUSD and then sell it at above $1. If it's trading under $1, you do it the reverse. And so that's kind of what's going on with the current price. LUSD right now is kind of, it's only paired with LRB on my toy exchange. And so when LRB fluctuates as a random walk as it's currently programmed, it's going to take LUSD along with it. And then every once in a while, you'll see that there's my arbitrage bot running and it'll try to bring back the price close to $1. And so I think generally, given these factors, Lyrebird really needs to be very heavily community owned with a lot of involvement and ownership from the community. As I mentioned, there's no specific collateral. So really the only kind of collateral that you have is people's confidence in your system. And the reason why this is important, we have two examples. One is Terra, which is where I got most of this inspiration from. And another is Titan, which had a very similar structure, but with different parameters and different decisions that they made. And one is a big success right now. Like Terra is really, Terra was able to have its USD token do very well. And it's building a number of different interesting protocols like Mirror Finance, Anchor, whereas Titan we know is worth nothing right now. And so it's good to have these two examples because I think what it proves is that if we do this well and we do it right, we can make it work. And it also tells us that if we do things poorly, it doesn't work, but we have at least a positive example of what not to do. And one of the things that I think is very important is that people have to have faith in the system because this arbitrage system works. If you think that, that this is a going concern, you could always arbitrage and then something will eventually return to its pegged dollar of $1. But if you think it's possibly going to go to zero, like Lyrebird might not exist anymore, then that's when you get the run of the bank. I think Terra is also susceptible to this, and any kind of protocol that has this kind of somewhat recursive definition of value is susceptible to this. And the only way really to combat that is to make sure that people have faith in the system. Now, let me see if there are any questions in the chat. Oh, there are some. So I'm going to try to answer some questions. So estimated release date, I don't know. So this is running in RC4. I think really for a real version to run, I need integration with at least Flamingo, because realistically, like I have a toy exchange and that's not, like it kind of shows you that the idea works, but it's not realistic, right? And so I think the first priority really is to try and work with the Flamingo team and to try to see if I can set up an environment and testnet that basically can handle arbitrage bots and allows me to list. So TBD on that. How did I use Axe Labs template and how can that act as a Lego block? Yeah, so Axe Labs actually released a full DApp example. And so they had contracts and they had front end. And so I really just took their front end, which had full neoline integration. So that was just a part that I could use instead of writing myself. DAO templates as a Lego block, I agree. Like I want there to be kind of staking and voting aspect to this as well. I don't want to do that myself. And I'm kind of hoping that because Neo already has a big emphasis on community involvement and voting, that someone will create a generic DAO template and everyone is able to benefit from that. So for other developers who are watching this, I think that would be a great idea. Second question is, what happens if the arbitrageurs don't perform their job and they can't keep the price peg? I think if that happens, really the protocol just dies. Like realistically, it's just like either it works or it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, there's no confidence, and then no one's really going to want to do it. So I think it's really important to have a good launch that shows that it's stable. And I think a lot of that is going to be trying to run a bunch of different simulations to try to get an idea of like how many participants are necessary, how much capital you need in your bots. I don't have an idea of what the magic number is yet, but I do imagine if you have a large enough capital for your arbitrage bot in the beginning, I think you can really stabilize things regardless of adversaries trying to attack. But eventually I want to make it so that, we just open source the arbitrage bot and rely more on the community to do it rather than the team just running an arbitrage bot. Oh, lots of questions. Yes, plans for releasing LRB. So I think a combination of airdrops and IDO. So I want to make sure that people who are already in this kind of ecosystem are the ones who kind of take the staking and governance roles. And what I'm thinking right now is probably related to Flamingo. I don't know if it'd be Flamingo holders or liquidity providers. Liquidity providers, I think makes most sense, but I do want to make sure that at least a majority of the tokens are released to the community, so that from the beginning, the community can really feel like they own the protocol. And then once we start voting, then, I can't really decide if they outvote me, then that's fine. And what other coins do we plan to pair LUSD with? Probably NNEO, at least in the beginning. So yeah, I think Flamingo does provide the kind of one hop functionality. So if you have a NNEO LUSD pair, and let's say NNEO and I don't know, CGAS pair, then if you want to swap LUSD for CGAS, then it kind of just does the hop for you, I believe. Let's see, can it be listed on other exchanges too? I hope so, because I think this model works really well if you have a number of different exchanges. So you can probably kind of weight by volume to try to get the prevailing price. If if you only have one exchange, you do kind of run a risk of what happens if that exchange goes down, or other risks that are specific to the exchange that I think if you spread out over a bunch of different exchanges, then you can really only worry about systemic risk and kind of try to isolate the specific risks of specific exchanges. And am I looking to collaborate with others? Yes, definitely like to collaborate with others. As I mentioned before, if I design something, it looks like a 5-year-old did it. The only reason why this looks halfway palatable is because Max Habs wrote it. So really, things like front end, I think a lot of different teams have really, really nice looking logos, and I have this little right angle thing that looks like a L, which doesn't look that professional. Maybe if it looks like a bird, it looks nicer. And so generally looking for, I think, people who can help in the kind of design and front end space, also kind of people to vet the economics, whether how viable this is. And so I think those really are the types of people that I'm looking to collaborate with right now. And for the dummy exchange, yeah, so the dummy exchange actually is kind of like Flamingo. So I think most decentralized exchanges right now use a constant product AMM model. So you just have a liquidity pair. So right now I just have LRB LUSD. You have kind of constant values that you put in initially. And then if people keep buying LUSD, then the constant product ratio makes it so that LUSD becomes more expensive to buy the more you buy. And so that's kind of how you influence the price. And so I do think it's pretty realistic in terms of what the price movements on a DEX would look like. I have no idea how to model how this would look like on a centralized exchange, because that really depends on how the other market participants want to participate, because the order book really just looks like whatever people want to put in. And so we don't really have control over that. And I think it's difficult to model because you don't know what really the inputs are. But yeah, so it's kind of like Pancakeswap is the way that it's done right now. And let's see, what would be required to launch the next asset after LUSD? Yeah, so I think the first thing that I really want to do, as I mentioned, is to build confidence, because people have to think that this will work in order for it to work. And for that to happen, I think we really just need to have a very solid launch. It doesn't have to be that much in terms of functionality. I think it really just needs to be, people need to believe that this can keep the peg. There are a number of different things that I think we can do once that happens. And hopefully at that point, we'll be able to get the community involved in terms of what direction to go. Obviously, you could do other stable coins, like not USD, but let's say Canadian dollar or Chinese yuan. Not sure what the appetite for the market is on that right now, but you could theoretically, I think, say like, okay, I want to track a stock index, or I want to track a specific stock. And I am not aware of anything on the market that uses this particular protocol to do that, because Mirror.finance was also another inspiration for me. But the way they do it, actually, their USD follows this protocol, but then their other assets are collateral backed. So you put in your UST, which is Terra USD, as collateral, and then you mint the M asset is what they call it. And so I don't know if there's a specific reason that makes minting other assets through this protocol not work, whether it's liquidity or whether it's a technical issue, but I do want to find out more. Another thing that I think we can do is lending and kind of savings protocols. I think if other people are interested in doing it, I'm just happy to say, like, just take this. You have the stable coin, please use it. But if there isn't, I do think that that's probably a very, very good way to gather more interest and stability in the system, because you need demand really to have a stable coin. If you have a stable coin that's algorithmic, but there's no demand, then it's much easier to trade the price, and that's going to lose confidence. And so I think it really depends on what other people are building, especially because mainnet launch is coming up. I think we're going to see a bunch of different product announcements, and we're going to get a sense of what the ecosystem really is interested in building. And once we have that, I think it'll give us a good sense of, okay, like, we don't want to step on people's toes, but we do want to make sure that if others want to use this, then they have the right building blocks to do so. And so yeah, sorry, I don't have any specific answers at the moment, but I'm just trying to share thoughts in terms of what could be useful or interesting.
Cool. Thank you, William. And that should be a wrap of our presentations today. Thank you, everyone, again. Just a quick comment that a lot of people in the community liked both projects today. There were a lot of comments about Humswap's design and the idea, right? In the market, we had a burger swap, we had a Pancakeswap, and now it's a Humswap, and related to hummus and PITA, and that's a healthy snack as well. So it's a cool idea and a very nice design. And then Lyrebird, of course, great idea, very complicated and excellent execution. So thank you, everyone. This video will be uploaded to YouTube, and see you everyone on Discord. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.